Sophie, it's that time of year. We're back to do our official championship predictions for the upcoming season that starts in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to start now.
Honestly, I am buzzing. Before we get into this video, let's set some targets. 3,000 likes, we can do it. We've got a massive championship fan base over here, so just take 2 seconds to click that thumbs up button and support this video. And if you're not already subscribed, then hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds and it also helps us out, and you will see our videos which we do on the championship every week. Now, there is just less than 2 weeks till the season starts, Sophie, so I guess there could be some transfers or developments in the next 2 weeks which could kind of spoil our predictions, but we're getting them in today early so everyone can see them before the season starts. We've still got to do our Premier League predictions, and a quick disclaimer to everyone watching, not everyone can get promoted actually. We are going to have to put some teams to go down. We're going to have to fill the bottom half with a few teams as well. If you disagree with our predictions, that's fair enough. Just let us know your predictions down in the comments. But if you're just going to comment saying, this is wrong, and this is wrong, then go away.
Don't bother.
Yeah, go away. Let's get into the predictions, Sophie, and we're going to go alphabetically, but we're going to reverse it and go from Z to A. We're going backwards this time, starting with West Bromwich Albion. West Bromwich Albion last season, Sophie, they made it into the playoffs. We both predicted them to finish in 9th place last year, and what I do like about West Brom is the manager. Yeah. I am a massive fan of Corberan. He is one of the best in this league. I'd say in the top 3.
Top 3, yeah,
top 3.
Same, yeah.
And I think there's got to be a promotion on his CV coming in the next couple of years, and ideally with West Brom. Will it happen this season? I'm going to say there's a chance. I'm going to put West Brom to finish in the playoffs again. I'm going to put them in 6th place. They have brought in Diakate and Joe Wildsmith. They've let a few players go like Matt Phillips and Adam Reach. But the key thing is they've still got quite a few of their familiar faces there like Bartley, Wallace, Thomas Asante, still there at the moment. I know he's been rumoured to go, but he is still there. I think West Brom will make the playoffs again.
Okay, I actually think they might fall short this year. There was times last season where you thought, they're not playing like a playoff team, but they did it. And I think a lot of that is down to the manager. As we've both said, we think very, very highly of him. I think he's a very good manager. But I do have them to drop slightly lower than last season and to finish outside the playoffs in 8th place. 8th
place. Interesting. Share your thoughts on West Brom, guys. They've got to be in and around the playoffs. I'm going for them to make the playoffs. Sophie is going for them to just fall short. On to the next team, Sophie. We have got Watford. Watford come into this season with Tom Cleverley as the manager. They've brought in players such as Doumbia and Sissoko. The thing is, towards the end of last season, Sophie, I thought Tom Cleverley had them putting in some good performances, getting some good results, and while they didn't have a lot to play for, they were taking points off teams that did. Coming into this season, I wish Tom Cleverley all the best, but Watford is a team I'm going to have to drop down the table. Yeah. I've just got some reservations. Yes, they've still got some big players there, but they have run out of parachute payments now, and I'm going to have them to finish in 19th place, Sophie. I know it's a bold shout, but I think Watford might fall down the table a bit this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. There seems to be a fair bit of negativity around the club at the moment. I think expectations has been high, and they've been falling short a lot. And I think we feel the same on this one, where they're going to finish this season. I've got them to finish 19th as well. I don't think there's any real danger of them going down, but I think they're going to be flirting with around the relegation zone. I don't think they'll drop into it at any point, but I don't see them finishing much higher. So 19th.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If I had to move them, I'd move them higher, but I just have this feeling that they could be one of the teams to slump down the table a little bit, potentially. On to the next one, Sophie. We have got Swansea City, finished in 14th place last season after Luke Williams came in as the manager. A couple of signings, Young-Ji Song, Vigouroux, Gonzalo Franco, and coming into this year, Sophie, not 100% sure. I mean, without sounding too horrible, they weren't like setting the world on fire last season, and there was a few changes, and you hope there's a more settled picture behind the scenes. You hope Luke Williams gets a full season and delivers. The expectation's got to be to push for top half.
Yes.
But I might have them a bit similar to last year, if not dropping a little bit. I'm going to go for 18th place. I don't think they'll go down, but they're a team I've got dropping a few places.
Yeah, they're a team that I look at the moment, and it might seem a little bit harsh, but that team doesn't excite me. It doesn't fill me with excitement. It sounds a little bit harsh, and I know it's saying it before the season's actually begun, but I have them finishing 1 place higher than you in 17th, but I just don't see a good season for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's difficult. It's very difficult. Swansea, I don't know, they've kind of slumped in the Championship. I think since Russell Martin's gone and the parachute payments ran out there, They need something to come in and kind of send them up like a firework back into the playoff places, but it's going to be difficult. On to the next one, Sophie. We have Sunderland. Massive club, massive fan base, massive stadium. They brought in Labrie as the manager. This will be interesting. Don't know what to expect from him. Signings include Ian Poveda, Alan Brown, Simon Moore. Of course, they've still got a few of their star players there. Jack Clark is always going to get attention. Joe Bellingham is there. Can he, follow in those footsteps of Jude Bellingham? That is always the topic of conversation with him. We did see some moments of brilliance from him last season. Difficult, they were in the playoffs a season before last under Tony Mowbray. Mowbray went out the door the following season and they just haven't quite figured it out, have they? I mean,
no.
They were really cruising on autopilot for the last part of last season, and I don't know, maybe a subtle improvement this time round, but I'm going to go for them in 15th place, Sophie, which is only one place higher than last time. But if you're going to judge it on club size, I would put them higher, but that's not how this is done.
No, it's not how it's done, because you can't just say, the biggest clubs will finish at the top, because it's ultimately the players on the pitch that get the performances and get the points all season long. And Sunderland weren't doing it last year, and I think they might have another year struggling. I actually agree with you. I've got them in 15th as well. I don't know. I think Alan Brown is a good signing. I think he's going to control that midfield. They have got a few good players, but ultimately right now I'm not seeing enough to have them finishing any higher.
Yeah, I agree with Alan Brown. I think he could be quite good. He was obviously decent for Preston. On to the next team, Sophie, going through it backwards alphabetically. We come along to Stoke City. Stoke finished in 17th place last year. Schumacher obviously came in as the manager. They've brought in Johansson, Ben Gibson, Eric Bocat. And the running joke with Stoke City is just predict them to be somewhere in the bottom half, because since they've come down from the Premier League, they have done very little to impress. And that is just being brutally honest. There's been games where you could say, they were good, but for a full season, they've never delivered. And I feel like for some of those seasons, we've come into it thinking, this could be the year Stoke City get it right. Their business has been okay.
They have some really good transfer business sometimes, but ultimately, it doesn't work out.
I just think there could be a lack of goals this year. I'm going to go for Stoke in 20th. Yes, it might be harsh, but their top goal scorer, Andre Vidigal, only got 6 goals last year. So, what is there to say Stoke will do much better, other than the fact that every year, their transfers look all right? I'm going to go for them to slump this year. I feel like most seasons I have them higher than where they finish.
Yeah, I think with Stoke, what you can say is overall they're quite consistent, consistently poor. They're finishing bottom half of the Championship for the past few years now, so it's a bit of a safe bet, just put on bottom half again. I've got them to finish 18th, so just 2 places higher than yourself, but genuinely don't see them finishing higher than that. I think the highest they've finished in the last few years is 14th, which is pretty poor considering some of the business they've done.
They can't even crack into the top half.
Genuinely, they can't do it.
And Stoke fans, I don't mean to be harsh, we're not trying to judge it just on the track record, but it does give us something to go on coming into this season. Some of the business has been alright, and I'm happy to be proven wrong by Stoke City. On to the next one, Sophie. We have Sheffield Wednesday, who finished in 20th place last season, as I predicted. I backed them to stay up despite all the chaos. They've got Danny Roll as the manager, and coming into this season, Sophie, it's so different to this time last year.
Agree.
It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. But they got away with it because Danny Roll came in and they had good enough players to stay up. And in the second half of last season, they were in promotion form.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So it's got to be higher than last season for me. I'm going to go for a top 10 finish. Ooh. It's a bold shout, but some of their business has been quite good. Jan Valery, Jamal Lowe, Ben Hamer, Nathaniel Chalobah. Yes, they've lost Lee Gregory and Reece James, but I think Danny Roll, with a full season after a full set of transfers by himself, is going to get this team soaring up the table.
Yeah, see, I thought I was being quite bold and predicting them to finish 11th. I think beginning of last season, I was feeling very negative about Sheffield Wednesday with all the issues off the pitch and just looking at the manager, and you thought, what is going to happen? But they made the right decision in appointing Danny Roll, because he is doing a great job. I am a big admirer of his, and he got that Sheffield Wednesday team playing so well come the end of last season. So, well, actually majority of last season. I've got them to finish 11th, which I don't think is too bad. I have seen some people have them finishing higher, some people have them finishing a lot lower. I don't see them finishing lower than 11th for me. I wouldn't be that surprised if at some points in the season we're saying, oh, they could be in the shout for the playoffs, because they have got a good team. They've made a few good signings, and it's just adding to the quality that's already there in that team. So for me, 11th place at the moment, but if I was to predict them anywhere else, it'd probably be higher.
Oh, yeah, look at that. We're feeling positive about Sheffield Wednesday. On to the next team, and it's another Sheffield club. I can't wait for the Steel City derby. It's Sheffield United, of course, finished in 20th place in the Premier League last year. Made me look a bit of a mug, backing them to stay up. Out the door goes Bogle, Archer and McBurney. They have brought in a couple of decent players in Shackleton, Sam McCallum, Callum O'Hare, Kiefer Moore. And it's probably the team I've seen the biggest range of predictions on coming into this season. Yes. I've seen some people saying they're going to go down again. Yeah. I've seen some people saying they'll get automatics, and it is a really difficult one. They start with a 2-point deduction, which is not massive.
It's not massive. And there's hardly a deterrent, is it?
No.
When you spend a little bit more, you think, oh, well, I'll take the 2-point hit.
I do think one of the big things coming into this season is, will Gustavo Hamer still be there? I think this is a completely different Sheffield United to the team we saw 2 years ago. You know, they've turned a new page. Lots of old players have gone out. Lots of new players have come in. But they've still got the old trusty Chris Wilder there. I'm going to go in the playoffs. Yeah, I'm going to go 4th place. I suppose that's a fairly positive prediction for Sheffield United, even though they made me look quite a mug last season for backing them to do better than they did. But I will trust that Chris Wilder can get them at least a playoff place.
Yes, so I've got them in the playoffs as well. I've got them in 5th place. I think Chris Wilder is a bit of a steady Eddie manager in the Championship. Obviously, last season when he came in, I thought, okay, he might steady the ship a little bit, stop conceding so many goals. That lasted, I think, 1 game. They were just very, very poor last season, but it's very hard in the Premier League. It's a very, very different ball game in the Championship. For me, it depends on Hamer and Sousa both staying there. If both of them go, I think they're going to struggle. But if one stays, one goes, I think they'll get the playoffs. If both of them stay, could be automatics. So right now, I just have a feeling that one of them's going to go. So 5th place for me.
Yeah, similar to me. 4th place, 5th place. Share your predictions.
Kiefer Moore, I think, is a very, very good signing as well.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, Callum O'Hare could be.
Callum O'Hare, yeah.
Really could be good. On to the next team, Sophie. We have Queen's Park Rangers. Of course, last season they just survived, but they were brilliant in the second half of the season. Just like with Sheffield Wednesday, they changed the manager to Marty Cifuentes. And coming into this season, they've signed Zan Seller, Paul Nardi, Liam Morrison, and I feel like QPR fans should be feeling very optimistic. I'm going to go for a big prediction here, top 9. I'm going to go for QPR to finish 9th, very close to the playoffs. I was debating, do I squeeze them in there? But I'm going to go with 9th place for QPR. What say you?
I'm going a little bit lower. I'm going to say 12th place for QPR. I do think there'll be an improvement on last season. There were times towards the end when the new manager came in that they were playing better football again. So I think having a whole pre-season, having some of his signings come in could be crucial to having a better season. But I don't know. I don't see much higher than 12. Oh, no. I'm feeling positive, but not that positive.
Yeah, and to be honest, the big picture is, if you're a QPR fan, compare where you are now to this time last year with Gareth Ainsworth coming into last season thinking just surviving would be a good achievement. It's a so much better picture, you know. Yeah. On to the next team, Sophie, Preston North End. We've got to probably predict them somewhere in the middle. Finished in 10th place last year, which was pretty good, and it's what you predicted. Ryan Lowe, obviously the gaffer there, been there for a couple of years. They have brought in Paul Darson, but there's not actually been a lot of activity.
Very, very quiet.
They have seen Alan Brown going to Sunderland, and without a massive amount of change, you know, I think it could be potentially somewhere in the middle again. Obviously, Emil Reece-Jacobson should get himself a few goals this year again.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit lower than last year, but still somewhere in the middle. 16th place.
Yeah, I've got 16th as well. I think they'll drop off a little bit. I think Alan Brown will be a big miss, but ultimately, if the player isn't going to accept the wages you've offered, he's going to move on to another club. I think there's got to be a few more signings. There's still a couple of weeks until the transfer window even closes, so there is still time to make some signings. I think they're going to need a couple. Got to have them around mid-table-ish, but I'm having them slightly lower down this season.
Okay, interesting. Share your thoughts if you're a North End fan. On to the next team, Sophie, and it's Pompey. Portsmouth are back in the Championship. This is brilliant after 12 years down in League One and League Two. John Mousinho did a great job last season. Great players such as Colby Bishop got 21 goals last year. They brought in Jordan Archer, Jordan Williams, Samuel Silvera, Josh Murphy as well from Oxford United, and I think they will stay up. I think they'll do the best of the teams that have come up.
I agree.
I was tempted to say somewhere right in the middle, but I'm going sort of bottom half of mid-table, if that makes sense. I'm going to have them 17th. I think they'll be relatively comfortable, but could be a surprise package. I would think
could be another Ipswich, who knows?
Well, that's a bold shout, but I'll say 17th for now.
Well, it's not one of my shouts. I'm having them to just stay up, but I think some people will look at what Ipswich did and thought, oh, can we emulate that? Very, very difficult, but who knows? So for me, I've got Portsmouth to finish 20th place, so very, very close to that relegation zone, but I do think they'll have enough to get it over the line by the end of the season.
Yeah, okay, we're both back in Pompey to stay up. I'm going a little bit higher than you. Yes. Share your thoughts if you're a Pompey fan. Is it just about staying up, or could you see yourselves in mid-table? Next up, Sophie, we have Plymouth Argyle. Now, I said they would stay up in 21st place last year, and they did. They won on the final day to stay up. This time round, Sophie, if I'm going to be honest, through this summer, I have been saying I'm worried for Plymouth. I don't know if they're going to do it, and I'm gonna have to say something here which might surprise a few Plymouth fans. They're staying up. 21st place again. I've changed my mind. Okay. I'm keeping them up. I have been saying that I think they could go down this year, but no, I've changed my mind at the last minute. A Wayne Rooney masterclass. Nathaniel Ogbita has come in, Ibrahim Sissoko, Darko Diaby. I do think it is crucial to see what happens with Whittaker.
Yeah, I agree.
That could change everything. He might still go. But home park is a fortress, and I reckon Plymouth Argyle get enough points at home to just stay up again. 21st.
I've got them 21st as well. I think they'll just stay up. I think it's going to be a long season, plenty of ups and downs, but I think they'll just have enough. Hopefully not taking it to the final day again, but I think they'll just have enough to take it over the line. Who knows if Wayne Rooney will be there all season, but for me the most important thing, as you mentioned, is keeping hold of Whittaker and him having another good season, because he had a very good one last season. So if he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the bottom three if they don't find a good replacement, but right now I've got them just staying up.
There you go, Plymouth fans, you can give us some love back because we've given you some love there. On to the next team, Sophie, Oxford United. Brilliant to see them make it to the Championship. So much credit needs to go Des Buckingham's way and the players from last season. They got up through the playoffs in 5th place. You actually backed them to get relegated in League One last year. Matt Ingram, Louis Sibley, Jack Curry, all decent additions. They did lose Billy Bowden and, of course, the hero from the playoffs, which was Josh Murphy. It's just going to sound so predictable, but I think there will be just a lack of quality. I think they're going to cause plenty of teams some issues, and I am so for Oxford staying up, but my head is telling me they're probably going to go down. Not impossible that they stay up, but I do think they'll go down. I'm going to go bottom of the table. Yeah. I'm sorry, Oxford fans. Look, prove me wrong and I will be happy.
Yeah, I'm also sorry, but I'm having you to go down in bottom place, 24th for me. Although maybe take some positives, because I had you to go down last season. You didn't, you went up, so who knows, you might stay up. But
yeah, you might go up to the Premier League.
Yeah, I just think right now, yeah, God, can you imagine? I just think right now, they don't have enough for me to be staying up.
No.
I hope they prove me wrong. It would be nice to see a team like that stay up, but I just really don't see it happening.
Yeah, share your thoughts on Oxford United. I think, like I say, it's just one of those where, is it going to be... Do you know what I think they're going to be like? I think they're going to be like Wycombe a few years ago. No one thought they'd do great, but then they surprised us and did all right, but still went down, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
On to the next team, Sophie. We have Norwich City. Of course, they made it to the playoffs last year, but they have changed the manager. Wagner was replaced with Thorup, and in comes Cordoba, Mahovo, Theo Odalusi. They've still got plenty of the great players there, though, like Sarah, Rowe, Sargent. It's just a question of, it will be a bit of a building season for Thorup. It might take him a couple of weeks to get his feet firmly under the desk. That's the same, isn't it? Under the table. So I am a little bit conflicted on this. They're definitely going to be around the playoffs again, but this time round, I think they just fall short. I'm going to go in 8th place for Norwich. Okay. They've lost Solis and Ben Gibson. It's not the end of the world. I think, like I say, 8th or maybe a little bit higher.
Yeah, so I've got them to finish 7th, so I think just outside the playoffs for me. But I look at them and I think it's a good team, pretty solid. We'll see what the manager can do, but I do think they will fall short of the playoffs. I think having a team finishing 7th when they've got a new manager come in, isn't ultimately a bad one. It could be a building season, and I think it could be a little bit, but they have got that quality. They've got plenty of experienced Championship players there to get the points on the board, but I do think they'll just fall short.
Possibly. It's going to be close, I think, with Norwich. On to the next team, Sophie. We have Millwall, and I'm going to go for an improvement here for Millwall. I'm going to put them in my top half. They finished in 13th place last year, and my feelings are that Neil Harris will get them into the top half. Of course, they started last season not very well. You know, they'd obviously just missed out on the playoffs the year before with Gary Rowett. Then they replaced Gary Rowett, and eventually Neil Harris came in, and they were in some very good form towards the end of the season. They stayed up very comfortably in 13th place. You wouldn't have even thought they were in a relegation battle. So coming into this season, I think all eyes have got to be on the playoff picture. And when you look at some of their business, Langstaff, Tanganga, Lucas Jensen, I think they've got to be right up there. They've still, of course, got the likes of Zine Fleming and Kevin Nisbet. One thing I do want to mention, though, of course, is the sad loss that they lost their goalkeeper Sarkic this summer. Terrible. You know, they lost John Berylson last year as well, so really terrible. But they've retired his number, which I think is a really nice touch. Yeah. And for him, I really hope Mill will do well. Yeah, I'm going to put them in the top half, but I could even put them higher.
Yeah, I think playoffs is going to be their aim this season. I have got them to fall short of it. I've got them in 9th. I think Langstaff could be a hit or miss, to be honest. It could be an absolute genius move because of how well he did in League 2, but this is a big step up now. I do think he has got the quality to take that step up, but obviously he's not going to hit anywhere near as many goals against these Championship keepers, but I think it's going to be an improvement on last season. As I've mentioned, they'll finish 9th, but I'm not ruling them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got to be top half this time round. But you never know. The Championship is unpredictable. Yeah. On to the next team, Sophie. We find Middlesbrough. They've got to be one of the favourites to be in the top 6 or 7 for me. You know, very good with Michael Carrick, always pushing for promotion. Finished in 8th place last season, which did make us look a little bit silly because we both put them in the top 6. Coming into this season, they've brought in Bergzorg, Luke Ayling, Aidan Morris. They've lost 1 or 2 players such as Paddy McNair. Still got the likes of Isaiah Jones and Latte Lath, who I think could have a really big season. And if he delivers, you know, 25 goals like Akpom did, Middlesbrough will be so far up there. I'm going to have them in 7th place, though. I think it's going to be so close in this race for the playoffs that Middlesbrough, for me, are a team I want to put in there, but I've just had them falling short.
I've got them to finish inside the playoffs. I've got them to occupy the last playoff place in 6th place. I think they'll get off to a better start this season, and I think that's what's going to be crucial because we've seen it last few seasons that they've got off to a slow start, but they've finished quite strong, or they've had spells where they've been good. It's been a little bit up and down, but if they get off to a good, strong start, I think playoffs is on. Yeah. I think they've got the quality there to get the playoffs, and I think Michael Carrick is a decent enough manager as well. So, yeah, for me, 6th place.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted with teams such as Middlesbrough and West Brom. I think they're very similar in quality. Difficult choosing between the managers. You know, I really like Carrick. I probably do prefer Corberon, but yeah, I think Middlesbrough will be up there this season. On to the next one, Sophie. We have Luton Town, and I'm going to go for them to be up at the top end, same as they were 2 years ago. I'm going to go for Luton Town to finish in 3rd place. I think with Rob Edwards, they've got to be right up there. Not been too busy in the window. Shandon Baptiste and Roll Waters has come in. They've lost players such as Ryan Giles and Ross Barkley, which we suspected they might. But they've still got Adebayo, they've still got Morris, and this club is just so well run. It's just so
very well run.
It's the perfect way of building a football club because they were in the National League and they got to the Premier League. Yes, they came down, but the infrastructure, spot on. Luton Town 3rd place.
I've got them to do automatics. They're going to finish 2nd place for me. A lot of people criticised them for a lot of their business when they got into the Prem, saying, they're just preparing for next season. That's the Championship squad they're building. But actually, I don't think it backfired massively. Obviously, they didn't stay up, but they were in a lot of games as well, and they didn't embarrass themselves like certain other teams in the Championship did. I think Luton will have a good season. They've got the quality there. They've not had too many players go, not too many key players going. I think if they had Barkley, it'd be a much easier season. But ultimately, they've still got Rob Edwards at the wheel, and he's a very good manager. I think they're going to be just fine, and they're going back up for me. 2nd place.
Okay, right, there you go. Luton Town in second place. I'm going for third place. Let's move on to the next team, Sophie, and it's another team that's going to be tipped to do well, Leeds United, who Sophie did predict to finish third last year, and they finished third, so fair play to you. Do you know what I predict? I predict a riot.
Oh,
Leeds United are going to win the league. Yes,
wow.
I'm going for it for a second season running. I just think they've got so much quality. Now, yes, there was some reservations that they would lose all of their good players, but yes, they've lost Archie Gray, Mark Rocker, Llorente. But in through the door comes Joe Rodon, Jayden Bogle, Alex Cairns, and right now they have still got the likes of Ampadu, Joel Perreault, Somerville, Nonto. Those players, you know, Somerville and Nonto are really going to have eyes on them. But I'm going to go for it. I just think there's so much quality there. Yes, I predicted them to win the league last year and they didn't quite do it. I think even if they're not as good this year, it could still be enough to take them up, because I think last year was such a hard division. You know, I thought Leeds were really good and unfortunate to miss out with 90 points. There was some incredible games when they beat Leicester City at home. You know, they smashed Ipswich Town at home. There was some incredible goals through the season, like Bamford scored that incredible volley versus Peterborough. That was like a throwback to Tony Yeboah. I'm going to go with Leeds in first place.
Okay, so I got them right last season. Let's see if I can get them right again. I think it's going to be a very different season. 23rd place. I've got them going down. I think there's been a few outgoings. No, I'm kidding. I've got them to finish top as well.
Oh.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you got me.
Yeah, I got you. You can't not back them to do well this season. They had a very good season last season. If they can keep hold of Somerville, which there does seem to be a little bit of chatter, mainly about him rather than Notto as well. I think if they can keep hold of him, they'll have another good season. But ultimately, they've got a good squad, excluding him as well. So I think they'll finish top. I think they'll get another good points tally this season, and it'll be enough this season compared to last. And yeah, for me, they're going up.
There you go, Leeds United, we're both backing you to win the league. Talk about pressure. On to the next one, we have Hull City, Sophie. And Hull were really good last year. Some really good players. I thought Rosini got them playing some good football. Unfortunate to miss out on the playoffs. We definitely didn't get close with our predictions. But coming into this season, Sophie, despite bringing in Pharrell Brown, Cody Drama, Ryan Giles, I think Ryan Giles could have a really good season. They've lost Ryan Allsop. You know, that's not the end of the world. But they've lost Philogene, they've lost Greaves, Delap's not going to be there. I really liked them last season, and although they could go again really well with a different team this time around, it's just not the same, is it?
It's not. They had a very good transfer window last season, and it's not hitting the same this season.
I wish Tim Volter all the best at Hull City. They've got a good fan base there, and they've been pushing in the right direction for the last season or two. I'm going to go with Hull City mid-table this time.
Yeah.
13th place.
Yeah, I've actually got them to finish 13th as well. Yeah, they've not got the same quality of players this time round, and I think that is going to be ultimately what makes them drop down a few places for me. I don't see them in any trouble at all. I know a lot of people said if they don't get promoted, they're going to be screwed now, but I don't think it's that drastic. I don't know, I think it might just be one-off season, and then who knows next season. So for me, 13th as well.
13th. On to the next team, Sophie, we have Derby County. Now, Derby County did well last year. They finished in second place. Paul Warne is experienced at winning that division, usually with Rotherham, of course. They've brought in Corey Blackett-Taylor, Ben Osborne, Caden Jackson. Lost a couple of players that were, you know, decent for them, like Sibley, Horahan as well. They're a massive club. They are a big club, Derby County, and they belong not in League One. You know, you can debate whether it should be Championship or Premier League, but they're a big club, and I think the Championship is better for having them. But just because I think they're a good club doesn't necessarily mean that I think they will do it. And although I've been tempted to say Derby will stay up all summer, I've changed my mind. I'm going to have them to go down. I think it's going to be very difficult for them. I think they could get off to a slow start. Paul Warne, you know, only ever experienced relegations at this level.
Yeah.
I know that's, you know, difficult to say with him only really doing Rotherham before, but I'm going to have them to go down, and I feel a bit guilty because of it, because they are a big club, but sometimes big clubs go down.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last season with Birmingham City. You thought, they're a big club, they always just stay up, but they didn't last season. And I don't see Derby staying up. Not right now. I don't think they're doing enough for me to warrant them surviving. I've got them to finish 22nd, so I think it could be a long season of will they stay up, won't they stay up, but ultimately I think they will go down. It's not purely because the manager has a few relegations on his record already. As you mentioned, it's not with this club, but ultimately I don't think they've got enough to stay up.
Okay, on to the next one, Sophie, and it's the mighty Sky Blues of Coventry City. We come into this season with quite a lot of optimism, the whole fan base, and quite a lot of outsiders are looking at Coventry to be a real threat this season. I think the bookies have us in the top 6 or 7. We got quite badly burnt, though, with our predictions last season. I went for 3rd place, you went for 4th place. We finished in 9th, and that was... Do you know what? It was a good lesson learnt for us. I think that was a bit of a reality check that we aren't just going to finish up there every season. Last year, yes, there was gelling. There was an FA Cup run. This year, no excuses for me. Really need to hit the ground running. I mean it. You know, some of the fixtures at the start of the season, win, win, win. Yeah. And we could be up there. I've seen some people saying automatics. I'm not going to get carried away. I'm going to go for a playoff place. 5th place, the same as we finished, 2 seasons ago. We've still got Sheaf, we've still got Wright and Sims and Sakamoto. Of course, we've got Palmer, we've brought in Mason Clark, we've brought in Rafael Borges Rodriguez, Jack Rodoni, Dovan. I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. 5th place.
Yes, so I'm feeling more positive. I think there'll be an improvement on last season. I've got us to finish 4th place. I think one of the key positions that we have made a sign for now is the goalkeeper. As last season, our keepers did cost us a lot of points. I think going forward, especially on the wings, we're going to be very, very exciting. As long as we're already racking up a couple injuries. So as long as we can get those players back, because they're important players, for the start of the season, there should be no excuses. I don't want to hear we're getting off to a slow start because of gelling, any off the pitch issues. We've got no excuses this season. Start strong, finish strong, think playoffs. As I said with Middlesbrough, I think they'll get off to a strong start because both of us usually get off to a really slow start. But I think that this season will be different for both of us, and I think we'll both get playoffs.
There you go. It's a bold shout. We're both going for Coventry in the playoffs. Do share your thoughts. On to the next team, Sophie, and it's Cardiff City. Errol Ballou comes into his 2nd season here with Cardiff, and they were good last year. They finished in 12th place. They've brought in now Chris Woollock, Callum Chambers. They've still got players like Keon Atete and Yaku Mete, but it's up front that I just think if they scored more goals, they could have even snuck into the playoffs last season or something. I'm going to say mid-table again. I feel like I underestimated them last season, and I don't want to do that again with Cardiff. I'll say 14th. I don't know, that's relatively fair, isn't it? It
is, but I've got them finishing higher. I'm seeing them still linked with a couple of different good players, and I think if they could get them over the line, then who knows? I think they could be in and around the playoffs. For me, they are going to fall short. I've got them to finish 10th. But I think they're going to be more up there this season. I think last season, at times, I underestimated them and I had egg on my face. But this season, I'm predicting them to do better. So we'll see.
There you go. We're both going for Cardiff to be mid-table. Sophie's going higher than me. Share your thoughts. On to the next team, Sophie. We have Burnley. And Burnley, of course, finished in 19th. Let's be honest, we both predicted them to stay up last year, and they didn't. They made real fools of us. They've got Scott Parker. Now, he's got promotions on his CVs, and with similar clubs that have parachute payments. So I think they've got to be right up there this season. And I'm going to go for it. 2nd place for Burnley. They've brought in Maxime Esteve, Mike Trezor, Hladky, the Ipswich goalkeeper, Lucas Perez as well. Out the door goes a couple of goalkeepers such as Muric and Peacock Farrell. But they've still got the likes of Amdouni, Sander Berger, Kolyosho, and I just think they've got to be right up there. As boring as it might seem, the parachute payment teams will do well. Burnley 2nd place.
Yeah, it might be seen as playing it safe, having those teams up there, but you can't really not. Like, you look at the quality they've still got and you think, well, they've got to finish up there, haven't they?
You look at the track record in the Championship, relegated teams boss it.
Yeah, they do really well. I've got them to finish 3rd. It was a really difficult one between them and Luton for 2nd place, but I do feel like Luton with Rob Edwards, I just fancy them slightly more. I think it's going to be very, very close though between the two of them, and that, you never know, that could go down to the final day. But I think they're going to have a good season, playoffs, and who knows, they might just go straight back up.
There you go. You fancy Luton, I fancy Burnley. I also fancy Rob Edwards, so I might put that in there.
So do I.
On to the next one, Sophie. Bristol City, possibly a dark horse this season, although the transfer activity has been fairly quiet. Liam Manning as the gaffer. They've brought in Fally Mayulu, Sinclair Armstrong. Out the door goes a couple of players like Matty James and Vyman. Still got the likes of Naki Wells and Tommy Conway. And, I'll go top half again, but really could break into the top 10.
Yeah, for me, I've gone around mid-table. It's a crazy league, but I'm going to have them to finish in 14th. They have got a pretty solid team, but for me, They just seem like a mid-table team. I think there'll be ups and downs where you think, oh, okay, they're very close to the playoffs now, and then they might drop right off it. But I'm going to have them steady Eddie finishing 14th.
14th. Okay, on to the final team then, Sophie, and we have Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn Rovers scraped over the line last year. They got John Eustace as the manager. They brought in Aidan Doherty and Jack Barrett. And I think you could draw a couple of parallels here, Sophie, between Blackburn and Plymouth. If Blackburn lose Smodics, it's a disaster. If Plymouth lose Whittaker, it's a disaster. Blackburn have been in the Championship for a good few years, but, you know, the last time they weren't in the division was when they were in League One. I just think there hasn't been much investment into the club. They haven't brought in lots of quality, and for me it's a question of just can they hang on to what they've got. We saw Wharton going out for a bit of money, didn't we, last season?
And that's not been invested at all.
No.
That's poor from the owners.
If Smodics goes, there's real issues there. I like Eustace though, I will say that. I do like Eustace, and I hope he has a good season, but I hate to be negative. I'm going to end on a relegation. I'm going to have Blackburn in 22nd. I think they will just fall short.
Yeah, I've got them to go 23rd purely because I think Smodics will be out the door. Also, if he stays and he has a slightly off season, which I don't know, he's a very good player, but there's a lot of pressure just on him. Overall, the quality isn't all there, and I think that's ultimately down to the owners. They've got money in the pocket from player sales and they're not investing it into the club at all. We know as Coventry fans how it feels to have poor owners, and there's so much negativity that it causes a little bit of a disconnect between the fans and the players, and I can see that starting to set in now. There's a lot of negativity around that club, and I can totally see why as an outsider. So I've got them to go down as well. I've got them to finish 23rd purely because of all this negativity and lack of investment. It's very, very quiet. I think Smodics probably will go out the door and that money will just be pocketed and not reinvested.
Yeah, it'd be unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. It's really sad to see. Equally, I like the manager, and I think keeping him there is your best chance at staying up, but ultimately I think they are going to go down.
I will give him credit though, an incredible win at Leicester on the final day of last season to get over the line. That wraps it up though, Sophie. That is another year of our Championship predictions done for. Of course, we will be back just before the first week of the season when we do our weekly predictions, but how do you feel after your predictions? Are you feeling confident?
With some teams, with other teams it's very, very hard to call.
Yeah, I think the mid-table bit's the hardest because they could go in any order.
Yeah.
Share your predictions down in the comments, guys. Keep it friendly, be nice. Get your comments down below in the nicest possible way. Do be sure to support us though by dropping a like and subscribing. And thank you for joining me, Sophie.
Thank you.
We will see you in the next one. Peace out.